Hey everybody. So sorry about that. We got interrupted. This is part two of the Steampunk and Solarpunk Suppression. It's gonna be very short. We're basically almost done. But yeah, due to the solar storm, we were cut off from the internet completely. And yeah, but I will try to finish up what I was talking about real quick. Um, so going back to my thread I was talking about. Um, so what I was talking about was the petition against annexation by our native Hawaiian country against the United States uh, attempts by President William McKinley to forcibly make Hawaii a part of the U.S. We said no, and the United States response was to militarily threaten and invade Hawaii and force us into their basically forcibly make us a colony, essentially. That's what it is. And Hawaii, since that time, has been uh, a covert, not openly acknowledged, but it's really just a colony of the United States. And everything the U.S. has done in Hawaii has been illegitimate. I mean, again, in the context of what I was saying, everything that the Western capitalist colonialist world does is illegitimate. None of it is democratic. But Hawaii is essentially a colony. And since that time, all of our progress has been reversed. In case you didn't know, Hawaii sugar plantation. Here's an example of that with this Hawaii sugar plantation run by white oligarchs. After the occupation of Hawaii and the proclamation of what called itself a republic, but it was just a plutarchy or oligarchy dedicated to plunder. But arguably, everything the West has ever done is that. An ethno-class system, as some have called it, plantation feudalism was built. The protectorate provisional government, a republic, sought to replace developing class and Hawaiian national consciousness with that of a strictly ethnic consciousness, trying to enforce Anglo-American values minus the democracy, of course. Plus, the plantation owners began allowing for cultural groups to organize on plantations. Thus, the plantation allowed cultural groups to organize, would later use these organizations against unions. So only like racial, ethnic, like Filipino camps, Japanese camps, like Hawaiian camps, Portuguese camps, and everyone was split and made to hate each other because part of the success of the Hawaiian socialist anti-colonial system, where everyone prospered collectively in mutual benefit, right, was we didn't have the racist system that the U.S. need. The West has always needed a racism to maintain the injustice and inequity to benefit a tiny minority of ruling class, right? Going all the Greeks had the same system. The Afro-Asiatics were the subhumanized labor system of the white men, basically, of Greece, and the women were also second-class citizens. And so patriarchy and racism are fundamentally intertwined with the Western capitalist, colonialist, racist, sexist system. So in order to construct, and another evidence that is the case is, in order to construct a successful capitalist system in Hawaii, they had to force racism into the population by insinuating to the Japanese, oh, you can't trust those Hawaiians, or oh, they're all out to get you, they're just barbarians, they're brutes. And then they would push and they would speak into the ear, because they had controlled the education system, they controlled all information in Hawaii. The white capitalists, the U.S. backed overthrowers, they would insinuate into the Filipinos, you must distrust, those Asians, those other Asians. To the Hawaiians, they were told, oh, the Chinese are stingy. They're all money hoarders, and the Chinese are they're not to be trusted. They're very deceitful, stingy Chinese, right? And these rumors were pushed, and these racist ideas were pushed through the schooling system, through the education and information. The newspapers that were banned, the U.S. banned all our Hawaiian newspapers, all of our publications, all of our reading, all of our literature was annihilated from public access. And the United States pushed its own ideas, its own narrative, its own print. Right? So every Western print, every Western media, every Western school and university by extension is all toxic waste. This is how they entrap your brain. It's a big part of it. And if they can't get your brain, then they just militarily destroy you. Right? And that's why they're trying to ban TikTok. And so, and that racist system that they installed into Hawaii was what is part of what enabled this plantation system to grow. And so pre-Civil War slave plantations, the antebellum Southerners, right? The South Carolinites, people who have Robert E. Lee and Confederate flags, they all celebrated and they came to Hawaii because they're like, oh great, we can have just complete slavery again, like we used to have in Hawaii after the United States forcefully occupied us. Instead of having one, there would be several different ethnicities, and they would all be made to hate each other, and they would all be paid absolutely pennies, and they live in shanties, and rich white people would make all the money. So, and that was Hawaii after the United States overthrew Hawaii. But again, it wasn't like Hawaiians are better off. No, everything in Hawaii got worse. Everything in Hawaii, all the great successes. Hawaii, the average Hawaiian, the common Hawaiian lived better than the average European. The common Hawaiian had universal health care. Unlike the average British person was dying in a Dickensian slum. You know what I'm saying? The average American was living a nasty, brutish, short life. The average American, was toiling in a field, working in a factory, struggling for some kind of labor rights. Even white Americans lived worse than common Hawaiians. Just average Hawaiians in the 1800s, right? And then we were put into this. So, so I'm just going to try to finish up here. Many Americans think Hawaiians lived in huts prior to colonization. The U.S. actually deindustrialized us in Hawaii. Before 1898, we already had mass transit railroads. This is some more images of those things. These are newspaper clippings of those successes. The railroads, the advanced cities with electric wiring already going. This is a trolley system that we had. And again, it's like I would love to do a Hawaii steampunk book or game or movie or TV show or something. Because Hawaii was a super successful steampunk place, with all of the trolleys and the carriages and the horses and the buggies and the brass and the elaborate costumes and fashion of the time, but without all the racism, the colonialism, and the capitalism and actual success, and the electricity was benefiting everyone. Remember, again, like I talk about, like steampunk is a celebration of the miracles of electricity and the technologies of information science. The cog and the lever, right? And in Hawaii, you could research and build electrical systems, and it would benefit everyone without capitalist involvement, unlike in the West, where you could invent things, and then rich aristocracies and industrial CEOs like Vanderbilt and Carnegie would make all the money, and you would just, if you went back to the steampunk era, you would actually hate it, the average person, in the West, in the US and Europe, because you would probably be one of the slaves or one of the little Dickensian children, right? Just dying from asbestos poisoning at the age of 16, working away as a child laborer in a glass factory, right? Or being forced to, the average person, if you were just brought back as any race, you would be a Chinese train railroad builder, or you would be an African slave, or in Africa being forcefully developed, right? So if you just went back to the European time, if you went back to the 1800 times, right? Somewhere in the Western world, the European US, right? Your life would be horrible. It's only the tiny minority, and that's a very important thing. Only the tiny minority, 1% of the population or less, got actual educations and got to live the Downton Abbey life, or the Bridgerton life, or there's a new season coming out, or got to live the Arcanum, the fun life. Almost everybody was living a horrible life, unless you were in Hawaii. Then you got to actually do steampunk, and it was benefiting everyone. You got to do like socialist-based, anti-racist steampunk. Imagine that, right? I know it's hard to imagine for Western people, because they've never seen it before. 54% of Americans can't read above a 6th grade level today. Teachers quit in droves with trillions in student debt, which graduates cannot pay. Hawaii's universal free quality education system meant that everybody, in 1841, Kamehameha III merged schools and officially created the first public school system in Hawaii, which primarily taught. Hawaii was the first country on the planet Earth with high quality public education. And most Hawaiians are bio-trilingual, and Hawaii became the first nation to make education required for children between 6 and 15. Europe and the United States only allowed quality education for upper classes and the aristocracy. Again, the West has never wanted to educate its citizens. It has only wanted it a useful cogs and conditioned peasants with electric, maybe with a Raytheon programming degree, but you're still a cog because you don't really understand economics or politics or history. 54% of American adults between the ages of 16 to 74 read below. This is from 4 years ago, by the way. So this is before the pandemic. It's worse now. We have an epidemic of illiteracy. If you make people ignorant, then it becomes easier to control them. Obviously, the U.S. The U.S. and the West are striving to banish libraries and schools altogether, and they want PragerU to teach your second grade classes. So they're not getting. The U.S. is going in the opposite direction of competing with China. How are you going to compete with BYD and the electrical vehicles if you are actively making your people more and more illiterate and making them sicker by not doing basic COVID-19 precautions, which you knew about because your ruling class already knew that ventilation and masking would prevent illnesses, right? But that's not what they're doing. The West and the U.S. and the European countries and their actual governments and people who control their countries are planning for annihilation of their own populations. They have no plan. They want to send you all to war so that you can Malthusianly thin your own self and thin your own herd. If the U.S. wanted to even start trying to compete with China, they would have to be cleaning all the schools, putting everyone back to school, giving all the money into education and in technological research. They don't want to do that. What they want to do is they want you just to be pissed off and then try to join the military to blow someone up. But they can't even do that. So I don't know. It's very sad. That's all we can say about this. Teachers are quitting because of challenges like safety concerns, low salaries, funding deficits, and declining mental health. And they're not new issues. And this is a teacher that was working full time and then teaching out of Domino's to survive, and she just quit. This is from like last year. And this is all across the board. This is happening, right? So you don't have you don't even have an education system. You have like a public daycare system. It's a public daycare / get children sick and get them shot up in school system. You don't really have an education system. All the quality teachers are being kicked out of their own schools for being like anti-racist, for just being for racial equality. If you talk about the problems of racism, you can be fired from all schools in the United States. If you talk about economic inequality, right, also known as discussing socialism and communism, you can get fired from any school in the United States. Half of the states have an anti-Marxism law inside of their own education departments. So there is not even a possibility. There's not even a possibility of the United States competing. This is why it's so sad. It's so very sad. It's just almost depressing. But the good thing is, if the American citizens choose to take their country back, if Europeans choose to take control away from their plutocracies, from their colonial capitalist rulers, and also the American ruler that rules Europe, the Washington D.C. that rules all European governments, and etc., then maybe Europe can also become a civilization for the first time. Kalakaua, one of our leaders, had invented a subaquatic vehicle when Jules Verne was speaking of steampunk. Like I said, in that time there was a subaquatic vehicle that was invented by Hawaiians when Jules Verne was dreaming on 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Hawaii was a living Wakanda, an indigenous future more technologically, economically, and socially, politically advanced than any Western nation. He also invented a torpedo-proof vessel in Hawaii. He was also the political leader. Kalakaua also the first head of state to circumnavigate the globe. He also spoke multiple languages and was a diplomat that wowed every government of every country we've ever visited. Kalakaua convinced Thomas Edison to come to Hawaii because that was how impressive he was. I mean, he was a racist white man. And then with learning all of these new technologies, that was part of how our leaders built the most advanced technological civilization on the earth. We had to. This is no small feat for Hawaiians look like Africans to Americans and Europeans. We have the curly hair. We don't all look the same, but many of us were called black people. Prince Kuhio got into fistfights. He was he was incredibly educated, trained speaker, artist, a scientist in his own right, but he also would fistfight any racist on a train, which he frequently encountered in the United States. And he physically beat down and outboxed many American racists on the trains, which also further impressed all of the women, and they kept on leaving their husbands for trying to get with one of these impressive Hawaiian steampunk era men who were incredibly educated, incredibly smart, would punch out racist white guys on a regular basis, right? Calling them the N-word on the trains, right? So for Hawaii, for basically what looked like black people to go to Europe and go to America and impress their Edisons and their heads of state that's a greater feat than being a white person, even from a small country. Being a European and impressing another head of state, right? Or impressing a technologist or a scientist from somewhere else. That's not easy. But to be a black person going to Europe and America and impressing the shit out of them, right? And like basically either embarrassing and humiliating them, or impressing them to the point where they have to come and visit this amazing place, right? And this is why you can see now why Hawaii had to be destroyed. Hawaii was a beacon for Africa to follow. Hawaii was a beacon for enslaved Africans to follow. Hawaii was a beacon for Asia to follow. They did follow it. That's why China is successful. The Sun Yat-sen used the Hawaiian system: socialist, anti-imperialist, anti-racist, mass education, state-owned enterprises, and the cooperative system, democratized cooperatives for everything else. The system, the Chinese system today, is basically the Hawaiian system. And Sun Yat-sen was raised in Hawaii. He was a Chinese leader of the revolution in China to get out from the shackles of colonial capitalism. He was raised in Hawaii. So Hawaii was like, it's not because there's like something special in the water, just Hawaii happens. You know what I think it is Hawaiians, we have an indigenous culture that is very conducive to, we already had pre-existing Hawaiian culture that was very conducive to advanced technology. We had a collective, non-capitalist, mutual, our value system and our system of management was already conducive to benefiting the mass numbers of people. And then when you add the modern global technologies to that mix, Hawaii is the furthest on the planet geographically from Europe you can get. It's isolated by thousands of miles. You have an entire continent, North, Central, South America. Between Europe and Hawaii is an entire multi-thousand-mile ocean, and then a massive continent, and then another ocean, right? On the other side, you have to go all the way around Africa. You have multiple continents and an Indian Ocean, and then a Pacific Ocean. So Hawaii's advantages, I would argue, is in part a confluence of pre-existing Hawaiian culture, the difficulty of the U.S. to get to Hawaii, and the geolocation. And so the United States and not just the U.S., the Europeans, the West, the colonial capitalist world, the ruling classes of the West, the British, the French, the Spanish, kings and queens and capitalists and billionaires of that time, they all decided, the G7 of that time decided we have to destroy Hawaii because if Hawaii is allowed to ally with China, if Hawaii's model spreads to China, if Hawaii's model spreads to China and Africa and the indigenous people in South America, then our system of domination and control, our imperialist capitalist system, could be destroyed. So that's why I spend a lot of time talking about it. Not because, in part, I'm a native Hawaiian, I have to talk about it because nobody else will. In Hawaii, if you talk about this kind of stuff in Hawaii, you get kicked out of universities. You will lose your job. You can't talk about this kind of stuff in Hawaii. That's why I have to do it, because I don't work for a capitalist, colonialist, U.S. government, U.S. nonprofit, or capitalist corporation. Because if you talk about this stuff in any other job, you will get fired. I got fired from 2 jobs. And so, but that's why, it's me and sometimes Gerald Horn, the black historian who has tenure. But even tenured professors, you better watch out what you say. Anyways, the sovereign country of Hawaii had black citizens, but in Hawaii, you can't talk about this kind of stuff too publicly if you work for the United States and its corporations. The sovereign country of Hawaii had black citizens before the U.S. Civil War. In fact, U.S. slaves that stepped onto Hawaiian soil were considered free. Chinese were full citizens in Hawaii as the U.S. chained them up to build railroads on the West Coast. I'm just gonna. I know a lot of this stuff is stuff that you might have already heard if you follow this channel a lot, but I don't always talk about it, so I'm just kind of reiterating it, just so people is like, I had never heard about this. What? But you can read this thread if you want to learn more. So Hawaii was a democratic, actually equal, existing socialism without racial hatred, greater technological advancement in a person of color nation, and to put the U.S. and the West to shame and destroy their white man's burden mythology, and that's why they illegally crushed Hawaii. And this is Sun Yat-sen, fifth from the right, who modeled China as on the independent country of Hawaii, and he wanted, which was a technologically modern, politically independent, and actively anti-imperialist country. And the key proposal was socialism, which is Wikipedia. This is from Wikipedia, tacitly admitting that Hawaii was a socialist country and anti-imperialist and technologically advanced. Let me say that again. This is Jimmy Wales, billionaire libertarian U.S. empire affiliate, right? Who runs Wikipedia as a disinformation magazine as well. It's just, that's what that is for. It's not, if you actually say anything true, like Ben Norton or Abby Martin, you can't edit Wikipedia anymore. So Wikipedia admits that Hawaii was. Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up. Okay, so anyways, long story short, just read this thread, and the point, what I want people to get is, in case you didn't know this, Hawaii was destroyed by the United States to suppress a technologically advanced steampunk, again, environmentally, racially, and economically equal and prospering possible future in the 1800s. It would have been the future for the 20th century, right? That could have come about. That was stopped, right? And sabotaged because the West couldn't compete with it. And now the Chinese that have a solarpunk future that they are building, where they have the world's greatest electric cars. They lead in economy, in economics, in technology, solar, 5G, 6G, Huawei phones, TikTok is stopping the GENOCIDE, right? That's why they're trying to ban it. Americans are benefiting from it. 7 million American businesses, 200 million Americans use TikTok to sustain their livelihoods. The U.S. can't compete, so they try to kneecap. They just try to attack it, right? Like they attacked Hawaii, right? They just try to ban the Chinese. Rather than make better cars, they just try to ban the Chinese cars. They just attack it rather than actually improve themselves and get better. And that's very sad. It's very bad. It's very dangerous. And it's just a horrible thing. And what people can do about that, or the call to action is, number one, learn about this history, learn about this present, right? Understand that China isn't your enemy, and not just China, many other countries around the world that the U.S. claims is your enemy. They're not your enemy. And continue to do actions to stop all diversity of tactics to rein in your capitalist, racist, colonialist ruling classes, educate your fellow people inside of the U.S. and Europe and etc. And just keep on moving in that direction, because the Western plutocracy is becoming very weak nowadays. The ruling class is very, very, very increasingly weak. They're losing control. They're very dangerous, but these are great opportunities to finally bring about that better future, and we can all have cogwork keychains and monocles and goggles and top hats, or not, if you don't want that, and be in wonder of technology, get to invent new technology like in the steampunk era in Hawaii under a socialist advanced technological civilization. Have our inventions be taken seriously. Have our technological inventions and developments, right, used by the society, used by people to make the world better, right? That's the goal, right? Isn't that the goal for all this? Green tech, solarpunk, steampunk, right? We want to make these new technologies, engineer and program and build them, right? And make sure that they help the environment and balance the needs of people and the environment, right? And not just make tons of money for a few people and waste the technologies on that, like having generative AI make sludge on Facebook, or only having giant gas guzzling American cars that are made in a very inefficient way, or giant big ag farming that destroys the earth. Let's use the best technologies that we have to make the world better and not benefit a tiny minority of people of a particular class, race, and country. And that's what we can do. And that's going to be, if we do that successfully, then we'll have a very positive future ahead of us. Otherwise, well, it could be, things could get very bad, and we're more like in the Fallout or Cyberpunk dystopian hell world. So that's the end of the stream, because I know we got to go. Don't forget, Neofeud is a cyberpunk, not a steampunk, a cyberpunk game. It is on sale right now, so if you haven't checked it out, do check it out. Every sale of this game does support everything we do here at the Silver Spook Cooperative, And it's also a game that is on sale right now. So if you've been waiting to pick it up, you don't have a lot of money, now is a great time to run and skip on down to the Steam site, grab it. If you like Neofeud, don't forget to leave even a very short review, because every sale does help us get the game sold in the Steam algorithm. So don't forget to leave a review if you have a chance to and you liked it. Also on itch, you can get Neofeud. If you don't have Windows, you have Mac or Linux, you can get it for Mac or Linux there. It's also on sale there, and maximum revenue comes to us when you get Neofeud on that itch site. You can also get Decolonators and other games like Decolonators, and there's Pigeon Wick Gun, Indigistar, and several other games. And all these games are in the Silver Spook bundle as well, if you want to get it all at once. Woman is a book by Holly, who was raised in right-wing evangelical Protestant Christianity, and this is a book that was Holly wrote. That's the story in the Bible from Mary's perspective that is about dunking on right-wing Christian culture. And it's free, or you can donate directly when you pick it up to help us out. You can also follow Silver Spook Games at octodon.social, Silver Spook Games at mastodon.social on Mastodon, or you can follow on Twitter, Silver Spook Guy, Silver Spook Games minus the Ian Silver for the games related stuff. And you can also follow Terminus C, which is the account for Terminus Cyberstar, a low poly cyberpunk immersive sim that I am the content director and the lead writer of. And it is a game that you can also follow the Discord here as well. And Holly, you can follow. The Solar Storm is apparently solar storming me off the internet. So I'm trying to rush out of here before it blacks out again. Holly, you can follow at the Tech Furry. Holly is our great wife, moderator, and partner here since 2009 at the Silver Spook Cooperative. Producer and more with the Kate Nix Music and Variety Show. Writer, educator, sapphic queer person, MECFS, haver, mask wearer, a parent, mama to 2 Native Hawaiian children as well here. And so don't forget to follow Holly if you have not yet. And thanks to the patrons in your thanks to all you folks in patron list. Without your support, it becomes very difficult for us to keep doing this work. And don't forget, you can support us with a direct Ko-Fi donation if you don't want to get Patreon or you don't play games. And if you appreciate the stream, sorry that it got cut in half, but if you appreciate the education that we try to do here, then consider and the game making, and you want to support us in that. And also anti-colonial, stopping the U.S. occupation of Hawaii to keep us a non-steampunk, solarpunk future. Consider helping us by directly supporting us through Ko-Fi. It really does help a lot. And also you can help us out by becoming a patron at patreon.com/neofeud. And if you become a patron, you get access to behind the scenes of what we're working on, the Silver Spook Discord, and the Silver Spook University. That's over 100 hours of other content I've ever produced, categorized according to topic. Anyway, that is it. Until next time, keep your steampunk goggles polished. Be excellent to each other, and don't forget to, just be a better inventoress and adventurous and technologist, and make a better invention, and help others with your new skills that you have and your knowledge that you have. And don't beggar thy neighbor, help thy neighbor. As the Hawaiian and other advanced civilizations like the Chinese today will do. Help others to get better at what they can be great at, and then trade with them in a beneficial way. Ideas, culture, knowledge, and then also sometimes products. Yeah? And that's the way forward, not the other way, which is the colonial capitalist Western way. That's it.